Hey guys, my name is Charlie Lyon, and this is how I got to MVS. First, I'll start out talking about my mom's side of the family. Her mom, Edna Mae Duff, is from Hazard, Kentucky, and her dad, Billy Joe Pelfrey, was also from Hazard, Kentucky. They met at a party while playing Post Office in 1955. Post Office is a game where you take turns entering the closet and inviting another person playing to join you. Edna, on her turn, invited Billy Joe to join her. And when it got around to Billy Joe's turn, he invited her to join him. Billy Joe almost didn't go to the party because he was out of high school at the time, and he didn't feel like going. But then his brother Paul invited him to go, and here's a picture of Billy Joe and Paul when they were kids. Here's Billy up here, and then here's their brother Ken, their sister Mildred, their brother Otis, some other people. And here's Paul, their dad Dan, and their mom Polly. So that's them and their family. And here's a picture of my grandma's high school in Hazard, Kentucky. So yeah. Later on in the week of the party, Billy Joe, he wanted to get his brother Paul to introduce him to the girl who he went to a closet with. And he had no idea who it was at first, so he just went around describing my grandma, and Paul just kept on guessing these girls. But then Billy Joe eventually saw my grandma. I was like, oh, that's the girl. And Paul's like, wait, what? That girl? So, long story short, Paul and Billy Joe one time showed up to my grandma's house, later on that week also, and they wanted to ask my grandma and her friend Zelma on a double date. And my grandma was a little afraid of what her parents would think, so she told them that she had to go to church. And so then Billy Joe turned to Zelma and Paul, were like, guess what, guys? We're going to church. And so later on, and they kept on dating, and they got more acquainted, and they eventually grew in love. So in 1956, Billy Joe and Edna were Zelma and Paul's best man and lady, and Zelma and Paul were theirs in the same year. They had Billy Joe and Edna had my aunt Yvette in 1958, and they moved to Middletown, Ohio in 1960, where they had my mom Yolanda later on in 1962. My mom lived her youth in Middletown, Ohio, and attended high school there. After high school, she went to college at University of Cincinnati from 80 to 85 and received degrees for biology, education, and history. After college, she taught history and coached some middle school girls basketball in Cincinnati. After a year of that, she decided to go back to UC to get her master's in hospital administration. After she received her master's in 88, she moved back to Kentucky and decided to start selling pharmaceuticals. She stayed in Kentucky for 2 years, and then she moved to Dayton to sell pharmaceuticals there and hospitals. Now it's time for my dad's side. His dad, Stephen Lyon, is from McDonald, New Mexico, and his mom, Rita Hurley, is from Painesville, Ohio, but she also comes from Irish heritage. Stephen and his best friend, Charlie Beardsley, were both serving in the Coast Guard at the time. Here's actually a picture of my grandpa, Stephen Lyon, serving aboard the U.S. Majove Coast Guard. He's looking out the microscopes on the ship. Thought that was a pretty cool picture. So when it came about time for leave, Charlie invited Stephen to go with him to meet his girlfriend Coletta Hurley. Coletta and Rita were sisters, so yeah, and they were both working in New York City at the time. So when they came time for their leave, they went over to New York City. Um, During this leave, they all went on a double date. Coletta and Charlie and Stephen and Rita. And or as time went on leaves visiting Rita, Stephen and Rita fell in love. And in 45, after World War II, they moved to Painesville, Ohio. And they got married in 1946. In 1947, my Aunt Maureen and her twin were born. Sadly, the twin didn't make it several days after the birth, but back then that wasn't uncommon because we weren't advanced medically and stuff. In 1950, my Aunt Nancy was born, and in 1953, my Uncle Jim was born. Now, in 1961, my dad, he was a little bit of an unexpected but pleasant surprise. So yeah, he was born in 1961, Painesville, Ohio. When he turned 5, he and his family moved to North Haven, Connecticut, where he attended school all the way through the 8th grade. After he finished 8th grade, he and his parents moved over to Ohio and at Avon Lake, where he attended Avon Lake High School. After he finished Avon Lake High School, he attended Miami University and earned degrees in anthropology and political science. He was at Miami University from the years 79 to 83. During this time, he met his friend Jimmy Rogers, who was his frat bro, roommate, and his bandmate. After college, my dad moved to Dayton and worked as an executive for Boy Scouts. And after he was done with the Boy Scouts, he started working for Steve Clayton for a real estate title company. Steve Clayton is also my godfather, so yeah. Here's a picture of Rita and Charlie. I don't exactly know when this picture was taken, but it's an old picture though. So yeah, here they are, and here's another picture of my grandma Rita. So yeah. My parents met in January 1994 at a Super Bowl party at Jimmy Rogers' house and his wife's house. My dad was there for the party, but my mom didn't really want to go. She knew Jimmy's wife through her best friend Stephanie, who she was best friends with through her childhood. The only reason she ended up going was to play with Stephanie's young child, Tori. So, throughout the night, she heard of my dad was there, and she didn't know him, but she caught a glimpse of him. It was like, oh. And so when he would walk by, she would stand up and compare heights real quickly and subtly to see if he was taller than her. Throughout that night, they flirted here and there. And later that night, my mom went home and told my grandma and my grandpa, Billy Joe, that she met the man she was going to marry. They went on their first date the Sunday after the Super Bowl party, and they had dinner at J. Alexander's. After only 6 months of dating, my dad proposed to her in August of 1994 at the top of Woodland Hills Cemetery, which is the best view in Dayton because it's also the highest point of Dayton. You can see everything. It's beautiful. They got married in March of 1995, and my mom started teaching middle school science at MVS that August. She decided to make the switch from pharmaceutical sales to teaching at MVS because she wanted a career that she felt mattered. My parents had me in April 1999, and in March 2001 they had my triplet siblings. It's a lot. They decided to have me start EC at MVS in 2002 because my mom had a teacher discount because she worked there, and they really wanted to send me and my siblings to the finest school in Dayton. And that is how I got to MVS. Here's a picture of me standing outside the EC my first year there. And also I just really am glad that my mom got the job there and has made me get the opportunity to go attend MVS. I'm truly grateful to her. Here's her and me. This is me like around first grade at convocation. So here's some pictures of me with my family and just some other pictures of my family. Here's a picture with me and my Mama Pelfrey Edna last year during the spring. Here's a picture of my Grandma Edna and Billy Joe on their wedding day. So I thought that was a cute picture. Here's a picture of my Papa Pelfrey, Billy Joe later on. Here's a picture of my Grandpa Billy Joe and my Aunt Yvette and my mom. Here's Yvette, there's Billy Joe, and there's Yolanda. And here's a picture of me, my dad, Rita, and Coletta. Here's me, there's my dad, there's Coletta, and there's Rita. Okay, and I also drew up like a quick sketch of my family tree. So here's my little sketch. There's me, Charlie Lyon. There's my mom's side, Yolanda Pelfrey, her parents, Edna Duff, and her parents, Molly Fugit, Logan Duff, and then my mom's dad, Billy Joe Pelfrey, and Polly Ritchie, and Daniel Pelfrey. My dad's side, there's Rita Hurley and Stephen Lyon. Rita's parents were Anna McMahon, who's actually a descendant from the O'Brien clan, dating back to Brian Baru. There's her dad, James Hurley, my Aunt Myrtle Langlitz, and Emmett Lyon, my great-grandpa. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great day.